Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Neil Thrussell, and I'm coming from the finally warming up barren wastelands of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm super excited that to have, we'll introduce her a little later, my friend Catherine Sagley Stevens, who I don't have many friends in the world, so that she agreed to be on this show is even better. So, as I said, my name is Neil Thrussell. I'm a 4 times international best-selling author, life coach, happily married man of 36 years, and no, my wife is not right here telling me that I need to say that. And I'm really excited, and I'm on coffee and sugar high today, and life is just good. So I'm excited to see my co-host Sarah Wade today. Hello, Sarah.
Hi Neil, thanks for having us, and it's great to see everybody here with smiles on their faces. Is it all the caffeine buzz happening here, or are we just happy people? As you know, my name is Sarah Wade. I'm actually an art therapist and a pretty cool coach. I combine mindset coaching with art therapy to help people get artful transformations in unusual ways. And I'm really excited to be joining you from Perth, which is getting a little colder at the moment, but I did get a chance yesterday to go exploring. Had a really good time, secret agent mission in the bush. So we've got our fantastic guest with us today. Now, I'm going to have trouble saying your name, Catherine, so I'm going to introduce you as Catherine, who is the social media expert who's joining us today. Now, Catherine, please tell me how to pronounce your name so I don't muck it up.
It's Sagley Stevens.
Thank you. Sorry. Welcome. It's so nice of you to join us. And you're in Canada too, aren't you?
Yes, I'm in the same city as Neil.
And we just warmed up. It got to 18 degrees today.
Ooh, 18, wow.
I don't want to know that it's like 35 degrees in Perth today.
No, we're actually pretty close. It's about 22, I think, today. So we're sort of chips in the night at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to have Catherine on the show today, because anyone that knows Catherine can't help but share. And we were in the TV world, in the webinar world. The green room is what's the room that's backstage, and we were just in the green room, and we're just holding a casual conversation. And Catherine couldn't help share. She goes, "Neil, do you have a hashtag?" And guiltily, I said, "No." And within, I don't know, 7 seconds, she had already done a little mental calculation and come up with it. So thank you. So that's what we're in for the show. So Catherine, what are the medias that you like to use? Yes, we're on Facebook, but you're allowed to share with what you like to use.
I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my professional space, and over the last year and a bit, it even started a little bit before COVID, it was starting to become more personal. So it was nice. You're always looking at work. You're not looking at memes and cat videos all day, but there is a little bit of that. And in the last year, people came to LinkedIn because we're stuck at home. People are looking for work, and discovered that it's a nice place without, politics and religion. And people were genuinely having conversations at a level that LinkedIn had not really seen before. So it's become a fantastic place.
Cool. But it's your fault that I'm watching cat videos. Okay, no, that was Twitter, because you got me involved in Catterday.
Yeah, Catterday. Yes, I did. Hashtag Catterday on Saturdays. Yes, I did. That was a few years ago. The good news is you can watch cat videos all day. It doesn't have to be Catterday.
So, as to our listeners and our viewers will know that you can tell that Catherine and I have a great relationship because we've known each other. I don't know, 5, 6, maybe longer.
7 years.
Oh
Can you believe it?
Okay. And yeah, and we know each other through a program called the Evolutionary Business Council, but we won't talk about that. But Catherine has always been, and I dare say this, a web geek.
It's It's true.
So let's just jump into it. How important is saying the right things on the web? Like, it's a stupid question, but how important is it to get my messaging right?
It's extremely important to get it right. And the great news is, if you make a mistake, you always have an opportunity to do it again. Just like you wake up the next day and have an opportunity for a brand new day, whatever didn't work yesterday, shuck it off and off you go on something new. The same thing can happen online. That's fantastic. And you know what? When it comes to the messaging, it's really important to understand that it's not that different than being offline. What a lot of people don't think about is the filter. If I'm standing in front of you, I'm going to have a different filter. Think, is this what I really want to say? And then say it. Whether online, we tend to say things and the filter's not always there. Now that could be very genuine, but at the same time, it could also make us a little bit lazy. It could get us to anger. You know, that email that you write in anger, but then you put it aside and then you send the one you're going to send. Unfortunately, there's the anonymity side of it. There's just oh, I'm not going to hurt someone's feelings. I'm just going to put it out there. And you just post, or we just post. I shouldn't say you. We post sometimes without thinking, is this really something I should have done? So the wonderful thing about messaging is you planned in advance what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, but who also do I intend to hear me? So am I in the right place? Are they going to hear me? Are they going to understand because I've chosen to articulate it in a way that my target audience or the people that I really want to connect with are going to understand? So a little planning will go a long way and get our message right.
I'm actually curious on that note then, is if you have multiple platforms that you're using, Catherine, if you have the same message with the different platforms offering different things, would you tailor that information that you had shared?
We should be tailoring it to every platform. However, there is so much generic between Facebook and LinkedIn. You can sometimes have the same message across because you're going to connect with the same people. But if you're going after one group that, let's say, is on LinkedIn and another group on Twitter and another group on TikTok, your message had better be very different across the board because there are different people listening. And for some of us, we have a broad message that can bring many people. Others are really niche down. And, you know, we can talk about niching later, but niching might mean that there's only one place where 80% of your target audience is, and you only need to worry about that one location. Makes things much easier. And that's the whole point of being online, is how do we make it easier on ourselves so that we're not working 24 hours a day?
Makes sense, yeah. And to have the opportunity to really to choose who you want to work with before getting it out there on one platform, so you're not wasting that time.
Yeah.
Also streamlining, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much easier, and it'll take less time too if we're planning that in advance. And I'm all about strategy and planning because it seems like it takes more time initially, and it does. But once you get to the other end, once you're at that halfway mark, you're getting very different results than if you just spray and pray. You've heard the term, you know, throw spaghetti to the wall, see what sticks. Spray and pray is the same thing. I'm just going to put out a bunch of messages, not going to think about it too much. Just going to put what is out there, see what sticks. When if we had spent time getting to know our target audience, talking to our target audience, making sure that that message was crystal clear, and also something that they wanted. That's another secret piece. Is it something they actually want? Is it something that I should be doing, or do I need to do something a little more tailored to them, or should I go find a different audience so that I'm doing what I really want to do? There's so many things across the board.
Yeah, I hear that. When you first said spray and play, I don't know if you noticed my eyebrow, but I thought you were talking about those Cat-a-day days again.
know what? I haven't actually used that hashtag before, but it does come up in conversation.
And thanks for joining us, Nico, and anyone else who's joining us live. Feel free to drop in a comment, and we'd love to get Catherine involved in the conversation and answer any questions that you have.
Yes.
My personal experience, because I'm a horrific speller, from my personal, Facebook allows me a much greater leeway in my neologisms in spelling as opposed to LinkedIn. I get trounced on if the grammatic is not up to the Queen's English, or it doesn't. So and for me, I pay far closer attention when I use LinkedIn than I do to Facebook, and maybe that's just a lazy habit that I have. That if you're listening to this or viewing this, please spell better than I do. Please, 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 please.
You're speaking to a severe dyslexic with horrible spelling. And the great thing about where our platforms are today, and this happens in LinkedIn as well, it will often catch spelling errors. So you can tap on a word because it's got an underline or it's blue or there's something, I can't remember in Facebook now what it does, but it will let you know if you have a poorly spelled word. And I'm not sure if it's Queen's English or American English. That's the other thing, is you can use either spelling, but if I'm online, unless I'm speaking to a Canadian audience, and I'll use Canadian spelling, but I purposely use American spelling if it's going global, because that is the English, that is the level. And COUR is sometimes unknown to an American audience, and it's just the way it is, because they see it without the U. They know labor without that U, and it makes a difference. It also makes a huge difference in those hashtags.
I've noticed that too. I'm an Aussie. We use U's. We have S instead of Z quite often, and we have with a U, not an O. But when you have a look into hashtags, the more trending ones have that American spelling. So it's been interesting to choose, which do I use? And I'm curious if there are other people out there who also have that problem. Is it a problem? Maybe I've got my problem glasses on. Which would be more global, or do you really hone down and target your market?
I think there's a couple of ways of looking at it. If you're speaking to a target audience, because you can be online and speak to everyone within a driving distance. So there are artists this past year especially who've been putting everything online. They're doing painting classes, they're doing galleries and showcases online for their own community. So you can be online and be with people who are just driving distance to you, or be online and the whole world is watching. So it's both. Now imagine if you had artists in multiple countries, all English speaking, and then layered it on so that you have French speaking, Spanish speaking, Japanese, German, whatever it happens to be. Imagine using the hashtags from French on top of your English spelling, Queen's English spelling, Australian spelling, Canadian if it's different, and US, and you're bringing in all the artists because you're using artist hashtags. English, French, German, doesn't matter. You're bringing them in, just letting them know that you're here, because many people online, if they may not be engrossed in English posts, but they're aware of English posts, and most of it is in English. Therefore, I'm thinking specifically Twitter and Instagram right now because of the art, but imagine bringing that in. And on Twitter, I do a lot of Spanish and French hashtags, and it does bring a different audience, but we all have one thing in common, and that's that one post. They should be interested in this post as I'm interested in theirs. So really open it up by bringing in other people.
So I have a question. So does LinkedIn still, is LinkedIn using hashtags, or is it ignoring it?
I think it's 2 years now, a year and a half, 2 years ago. You know, it might actually be the problem with COVID is it's really thrown me off as to how far back things were happening. So it might be 2.5 years now that hashtags have become very important to LinkedIn, and they encourage it. Think of 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 per post. And I want you to think of this terrible analogy: line the bird cage. Write your beautiful post, put up your image, put up your link, and underneath it on a straight line with hashtags. And they'll even, as you type slowly, it will even recommend what's currently popular out of. So if you write strategy, or you write art, or you write novel, it's going to give you a couple that it thinks you might want that are popular.
Cool. So then what we're implying is that pretty much it's only Facebook that's not too happy with those darn hashtags.
You know what? Facebook is using hashtags as well. It's not as popular. Out of the top, it's probably one of the least popular, but at the same time, you can use it. You will find people using them. It's just a matter of pick a couple that are going to bring people to your post. But don't forget, when it does come to hashtags, you don't want to use the same 3 or 5 over and over again. So here's a way of looking at hashtags. So if we're going to use 5 as a number, the industry, you in the industry, and then 3 that are specific to this one post. So what is your hashtag industry? Who are you in your industry? And the post that you just put out, what are 3 hashtags that are going to bring people to this one post? That way, those 3 will probably change post to post to post, and it will bring more people to you to one post, but that's where they can discover you doing all the other things you do.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think Facebook, I've been taught, and I don't know how you guys have been taught. And let us know, guys who are watching, how have you been taught? How have you been going with the process? But I've been putting hashtags in the comments, and in LinkedIn and in Instagram, they're completely different. So it's been interesting to see how people use their content, whether they're hashtagging within the content or at the bottom. The lining the birdcage is an interesting concept. I like that.
In LinkedIn, line the birdcage. That you can use up to 30 hashtags in Instagram, but they're saying these days you want to keep it to 5 or 6 in the post, put the rest in the first comment. So, I think the same rule applies in Instagram. You can use your hashtags all the way through. So you could be typing your message and use your hashtags through it, line it on the bottom, doesn't matter because it's still within the same post. But instead of using all 30 in that one post, put the rest in the first comment, and it will still bring people to it. But mix it up. Don't use the same ones over and over. Mix it up. You have your core, and then you have specific to this post. And that way you have a best chance of being found. And don't forget to use hashtags that are in other languages, because they'll find you too.
So can we go back to messaging?
Yes.
So messaging, this could go against, because we're all about the uplift, but is positive messaging more? Does it work, or is it the negative trash talk? Do you see that's getting more interaction?
Oh boy, that's a good question. So let's add another layer to that. So you have positive, negative. Let's also add emotional and logic. Okay, so we've got 6 layers. Negative gets people upset, and if our filter is not on, we post and send. We get mad, we post and send, and that can create amazing interaction. Interaction is great, but the result is this negative feeling. Nobody walks away a winner. And it's all something that's in the now, but long term we end up suffering for it. It's being that upset, and it just takes our energy. And sometimes just walking away, they upset you and you really want to get back, but you know what? No one's going to convince anybody on social media that, oh, now I see your point and I'm in the wrong. You're right. That doesn't happen over social media. But how many
That's
people
like
are
the
just
dog owner
thriving?
posting
So
on
many people.
Catterberry on the cat on Cat Saturday. That's like the dog owner saying cats suck.
And that's usually a 14-year-old
And
who
so
just
that's the
wants to create
negative
a
response.
reaction. And you know what? There's always going to be trolls. But, for the most part, most people are perfectly fine. And if something does upset us, yes, we can just put our point down, but we never make it emotional. If we make it emotional, that's going to trigger people. And we don't know what level is going to trigger people. So if we write in a logical way, it could trigger someone. If we write in an emotional way, it could trigger somebody. But that emotional posting gets a lot of comments. And you know what? For those people who are out there to get a lot of comments, it is something that they can do. But I prefer the positive side, uplifting, being uplifting, just like your show is uplifting. It is something that's going to nurture people and make people feel great and make them feel like they've been heard. That is sometimes the best part. And maybe you'll only get a couple of comments out of that, but you know what? You've got a fan. You've got a fan who's going to look out for your future pieces. And I think that is far more important than one post getting all this attention, no matter what. So positive comments, praise, just recognizing the work that people have done, recognizing the things that, people have spent their time on, or the fact that you've seen it. And Neil, I think you've heard me speak about the 1% rule before. So it's a little bit different today, but years ago when they were looking at the 1% rule, only 1% created content, 9% engaged naturally. And then there was 90% who were 5 different levels of did not engage but consumed the data. Of these 5, 2 could be pulled into engagers, and then you had 1 that only engaged when there was an emotional trigger of some kind, and that could be anything from anger to the savior complex, where they see somebody being treated badly and they're actually going to step in on their behalf and then go back to not. Now, it's called lurking. It's not a bad word. It just means that they're there. And you know what? If you did something every day for a year and then you stopped doing it, and it was something that people liked, you're thinking, nobody sees my stuff anyway, I'm just going to stop. And then these people over time will say, hey, whatever happened to that thing you were doing? And you found out there were a lot of people actually watching what you were doing. They just never told you because they are not the natural engagers. So yes, you want to attract natural engagers, but there is always, you think about, for one person engaging, there are typically 9 that are not engaging, but they're still consuming what you create. So positive. They're watching for a reason. Then the more engagers, I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best formula to look at, that 1 + 9, but it is a formula that is still around the same. There are always more people who are watching than there are engaging with it. I know.
I was engaging in content this morning of Simon Sinek, and there were like 1 million+ views on some of them, and only a couple of 100,000 comments and likes, and comments were obviously less than the likes and stuff. And I was just totally engaged. My jaw dropped several times, and I was like, I want to, like in a live situation, you can just press that love button lots of times. I wanted to keep doing that. It was amazing. So really interesting to hear that 1% rule from you now. I get that a little bit more. Thank you for sharing, Catherine. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And special shout out to our beautiful fan Nico, who who loved the tips on the hashtag. Thank you, Nico. Wait, she was actually a guest. I think, wasn't she our first guest?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What a beautiful soul that Nico is, and thanks for jumping back in and coming and playing again. It was great. I love the woman.
To see all your previous guests, can't they just go to your YouTube channel?
Yes, they can. I love how slyly. Yes, we have. I have. They're currently on Best You Can Be channel. It's called Best You Can Be, BESTU, and the word channel, and they're all there. Sarah and I have yet to create our own channel because we're just sort of. I'm going to put words in our mouth. Sort of just feeling this out. And we just haven't put the resources towards creating it. But I think we need to hold that conversation sooner rather than later, so that we have a common place to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
love
Once
that.
I feel like
again,
conversation in the green room after this.
and it's like, once again, as I said, Catherine can't help but help. No,
Appreciated.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, Catherine,
I'm going to talk a little out of key. I was at an EBC event with Catherine, and we were going to go for a walk. And she said, I just have to do this. And almost 40 minutes later, did we get her out there because she was being of service. And it lit her up because people needed and wanted this.
yes.
But then it left her short for lunch and sustenance and a little walk. But this is what Catherine does, and it's in her DNA. She just has to help. So thank you for your gifts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There are two things that people can do for work. One is you do what you love. You absolutely do what you love, and you find a way to serve in a way that you can get paid. You have to get paid, but it isn't necessarily all about the money because you're doing things you just love to do. And then the other way is you do work you don't love, but it allows you to get the payment to go out and do the work you like to do outside of work, like your passions, or what if you want to travel, it gives you the money to go travel. And I've done both. I started out working for the government. Not my favorite job, but at the same time, it was well paid. I was able to travel. I was able to take courses. I was able to, go out and do things and entertain things that a lot of people that I knew were not able to do in the jobs that they, we're all, 20 years old and starting out at that point. And now I'm on the other side where it's not that 9 to 5. You can't just, okay, not 5 o'clock, I can just shut everything down, go home, not even think about it, because you're always thinking as an entrepreneur. And it is amazing because the insight, and everybody has it inside, they have an insight that when you share that with one person, they're off on a brand new thing because you've just given them that last tool that they can now go build whatever it is they need to build. And you never know. So if you don't share that, it might be, it's great if it's the first tool they need, but many times it can be the last tool they need. And now they've got what they need to go run and create. And that's just an amazing feeling.
So I have a question then about boundaries. As you're working and you're giving back and you're doing that which you love,
Yeah.
at what point do you actually say, okay, it's whatever o'clock, I'm no longer engaging?
Yes, and that was a big part of this year of COVID. My phone started to ring in the end of February last year, and I actually went without a day off until May. So Catherine got very ill. And my husband was not happy with my health at that time. And we created boundaries. So I ended up creating little classes that people could come to a class. So, like, we did this in the EBC with the pivot power hours. And if you want something, come to the class, ask the question, I'll be available for this time. I'll be available for that time. But that ended up narrowing down a lot of the hours because I wanted to help, but at the same time, I can't get ill. And I think a lot of people, especially spiritual people, they'll give and they give. And I don't know if we all know when there is a moment when we've given too much. We don't always recognize it. We recognize it here because we can't get out of bed, but we don't recognize it here. So back to planning, if we say, okay, we're going to leave this much space and time to do that, then you know when you've hit your wall because you've given those hours away. And one of the things I had to do was track my hours because I had no idea I was putting in 12 and 14-hour days because there was like one day after another, and then months went by. So yeah, track those hours if you can, and just, just loosely, what did they go to? And if you are giving, is there something that you can do that's in group? And then the other part was delegate. Delegate makes a big difference. I've always had a virtual assistant. I had 2 or 3 at different times, but I didn't delegate. It was hard to let go of things. So you always have to let go of things so that someone else can build it for you, because we can't do everything ourselves.
I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. I can do this best, so I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah. I can do this faster. Like, no. I'll just take it and do it. And I have a virtual assistant who says, no, I will take that now. And I love her for it. So that is a big help.
He lines that birdcage for you. No.
And boundaries are so important for us to operate fully as human beings and not as human doings, so that we can fully, like, even prior to this call, 10 minutes, I just did nothing to get from my before the call brain and to being on the call. So that transition, people, so many people are guilty of not prioritizing self-care. And we all heard the airplane analogy and the oxygen mask. I'm not even going to go there. Self-care should be one of your highest priorities in your day if you want to last a long time. If you want to go out and end it by tomorrow, well, self-care doesn't really matter. No.
And self-care can come in all sorts of forms too. It doesn't have to cost money. It can be completely free. And it could just be a matter of putting a song on before you do your thing to get you in a different state. It could be about going outside and going for a walk. It could just be stretches. It could be, in my case, I create a lot. After my sessions, I will create something to get my thoughts out. Actually, last week I had a huge day and I had a lot of thoughts going on. And what I did was I actually went out to get the mail, and there was a heap of junk mail, which we don't usually have. And I just started ripping it. And I created a nest for my thoughts. And I just sat there with it for about an hour, ripping paper and pulling it all together. And that was my self-care moment. It was a really amazing thing to be with me. This is my needs, my self-care, and my arms, the hairs of my arms are sticking up right now because it was so important to me. So whatever that is for you, do that self-care. It's so, so important. And it's the complete opposite of being selfish. Complete opposite.
I'm going to jump out of order here because we normally do this at the end. But if you want to see, I'm pretty sure Sarah put her little nest there, little creative process on her Instagram post.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It like if you're angry, ripping paper can help with that. It was like, but it was this creative process that Sarah created and did. So this would be how you can get a hold of Sarah on Instagram. And you can check out the work.
I'm going to jump in and just briefly say I'm going to do a live on a creative nest and different ways that you can do things for your thoughts and have that real sacred moment for your thoughts. I'm just going to do a 45-minute session. You can find me, ask me details in the future. I'm not going to talk about that anymore because that's not why we're here. We're here to find out about Catherine and her amazingness. So on that, to circle back with self-care and looking at like maybe the content in advance, would you say it's advantageous then to look at a year in advance, a month in advance, so you have that more time off for self-care at other times?
It's a good question. Content is something that is for most people up here. And you've heard the term brain dump. It's like, blah, here's it all on paper. But most people actually can't do that. They put a little bit down and it stresses them out. It is a process that really stresses people out because they start writing one thing and then, oh, they have to write the other thing. And then, oh, and then there's this. And then they forget all that great material. So speak into a microphone, go get an Otter account. That's otter.ai. Just speak it all out, and then you have it all in text. If you don't have someone to do it for you, hire somebody to do it for you. But there are do-it-yourself messages. Do it in Zoom. I used to do it that way before I got my accounts. Do it in Zoom. Just speak. Just you're educating somebody. Just put it like you're going to put a lesson plan together, but you forgot all your papers, and then you're getting everything down. Oh, I know about this. Oh, I know about that. It's all down and it's in text, and then you can start moving it around. It's like you have a place to work from. And a lot of my clients, like I just start them out with these things, and it's like, ooh, there's a tip here, and there's an insight there, and there's a motivation piece here. Now they've got their content prioritized. Now you had asked about a week, a month, a year. If you can plan content for a year, but I'm talking about content up here, like bullet point. This is what I'm going to talk about this week, this month. Absolutely do that. 6 months, maybe. It's a good idea to plan so that you know what you're going to. If you've got an event coming up, you're actually working backwards so that you have that stronger. Let's say you have a conference that you want to go to. You want that stronger content closer to the conference, because then before that you got to educate, and before that you've got to become visible. So you're planting seeds that aren't going to bloom until about halfway through, so that it's really, really powerful. The problem with the year, unless it's an event, the problem with the year is things are going to happen that's going to completely derail what you had planned. Because, hey, maybe you can spin off this thing that's happening in the news. Now that could happen tomorrow. Somebody talks about uplift. We need to uplift people's emotion. Well, great. Guess what? Your hashtag just got a power boost, and you're going to put out content because everyone's talking about uplift. A year from now, though, I mean, hopefully COVID will be done, but is there something else? And you're going to scrap everything you've done from month 7 and on, because you really need to work with what you did in month 5, 6, because that's what people really resonated with. So what you create too far in advance, it's again, bullet points are great, but don't create it all a year in advance, because it may not be your focus. Your target audience might shift. They grow up, we grow up, they grow into something else. So do we grow with them and shift our work to match them? Or, you know what? This little target audience over here, they like my stuff now. They didn't like it 2 years ago. So I'm going to go play with these people for a while. So yes to the month, the day, the week, the month. 6 months, careful about going too far, but bullet points, great idea. All the way around.
That makes sense. It's reminded me, if anyone watched Schitt's Creek, let us know. Great Canadian show, love it. It's reminding me of Johnny Rose, who had his timeless introduction to his video business, and it was very 80s, and he was still using it in the now, and it was completely not timeless. It was pretty hilarious, but
it's a great show.
It's really not, and there are aspects that you can pick and choose to make it in the now, and those bullet points definitely help with that.
Yeah. And the addition to that, there's certain dates that we celebrate, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, that automatically need to go into your posting schedule. Neil's birthday, February. No.
Sorry, February what?
Send packages too.
Yeah, and so those automatically go in there. So yeah, with Catherine's tips and techniques, and adding in the ones that that occur yearly, it helps fill it out pretty quick.
I'm gonna add a caveat to that, if I may. There are so many holidays. So one thing that is happening with holidays is backlash. So you talk about Christmas, why not Hanukkah? People talk about Chanukah. I know a lawyer in town, actually, Neil, you probably know him too, and he talks about Happy Chanukah. He's both, so he brings the two of them together. It's great. But why this holiday and not another? So if you're very clear that this is your holiday and it's personal to you, most people are not going to have issue with it. But if you're talking about, this date and that date, but why not, 3 other dates that people are wondering, well, why don't you celebrate, or why don't you even acknowledge these dates? You can actually get into trouble. So if you're not going to make the holiday about your personal attachment to the holiday, it's actually a good idea not to do holidays. And it's going to depend who's your audience, who's watching, who feels left out. That's a question to think about, because people lash out when they feel left out. And then there is the, do you not recognize one versus the other? And it can be such a terrible time. And we're in a time in the last couple of years where people are in, they're shocked. They are triggered by so many different things. And we want to make sure that you have one post with all the holidays on it, or you have one post with everything on it, or just one because this is personal to me and I'm taking time off with my family. So happy whatever you celebrate, Christmas is mine. And that will not trigger anyone, or should not trigger anyone in any case.
Because I don't know anyone that doesn't celebrate International Cookie Day.
That's a good point.
And I don't know anyone that doesn't celebrate International Coffee Date. Those are scheduled in my calendar.
I don't know what
there are dates, there are calendars out there with every kind of date on it. And the one it just passed us is Talk Like a Pirate Day. I have a couple of weird friends and they always put something funny. They translate movie scenes. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. So I always look forward to that one. But there are calendars that have 4 to 20 different, this day, depending where you are in the world, is considered that date. And it doesn't, they typically don't offend people, but it's also, if you are a cookie and coffee, you like to dip your coffee in your cookies, or vice versa, it is something that you can put out because it's fun and it allows you to bring a little humor to your feeds.
That was one of my highest responses for a post. What's your favorite cookie to dunk?
Right. What was the winner?
Huge engagement.
What was the winner? What cookie won?
Oatmeal chocolate chip.
Oatmeal chocolate chip.
Okay. So if you were talking, if it was me during that post, you'd have a lot of Australians going Tim Tams, and you've got to bite the end off either end to use it as a straw, because otherwise you're not eating Tim Tams correct. Like, it's pretty important.
And yeah, I had a few Aussies, but it was like, yeah, and they put that, but my audience currently is mostly Canadian. So it's back to knowing what a Tim Tam is and knowing who my current audience is. Because I know enough not to insult that particular biscuit.
You should have Cookie Monster as a guest soon.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
I feel like
it'd be a crummy show. Oh. So what's trending right now? This is completely like we know our heart wants to be in, but what platforms in your mind are trending right now? So we've talked about messaging, but what is uplifting? What is down? What is mine? Like many people know. Crap! No, I forgot it. The Apple phone one.
Oh, Clubhouse.
Yeah. So Clubhouse was everybody was on it. I don't know if everybody's still on it. So
A Clubhouse. Okay, I'm going to bring one little piece in here because I can't help myself. So Clubhouse and podcasts. You build your fan base to watch your podcasts. When you go to Clubhouse, you kind of arrive to an audience and you go live. It is different, but it reminds me very much. Do you remember Blab? 5 years, 6 years ago, there was Blab. Had a great show. I loved Blab. Blab was meant, it was almost like you could have 4 people on at the same time. So the 3 of us plus one more, and your whole audience could watch. You could switch people in and out. There was voting. It was a fabulous place. And you had accounts where you would just leave and somebody else would take over. And then you come back an hour later and then you could get back in. It was a great place. And people created these shows. And then one day Blab went poof. All the audiences that we had built, some of us had created systems for it. We were, hoping to do something bigger with it, and it was gone, and it took our audience with us. So when you think of your podcast that you're creating, you still want to get people on your mailing list. And Clubhouse, because it's just whoever's on, and you want to tell people to come on with you, come and join me. Because you do the same thing with your podcast. People can go see it after. Clubhouse, you need people to see it now with you, and you can gain audience because people are flipping around like they used to go in Blab. It's like, okay, I don't like that channel. Next. Oh, I like this one. I'm going to stick around. Or you brought your people with you live, but you got to move them somewhere. Your mailing list is still, no matter where you are in social media, no matter what you have out there on digital marketing, you've got to bring people back to your mailing list because it could turn off at any time. Now, Facebook won't turn off at any time, but do you remember when your pages used to bring you a lot of people when they used to see your posts? Not anymore. And notice that our groups are not being seen as much as they used to be. But your mailing list is still, it's still important to bring people there because that's a direct contact. Even if they're not being opened as much today, it's still a direct contact, and you won't lose people should they shut it down or kick us out of our page, whatever that happens to be. So Clubhouse definitely trending right now, and great. Go, invite people with you. That's important so that you have your own fans there. Try to capture as many people live as you can. Have a strategy to give them a reason. Have a freebie that everybody who joins you wants so that, for your email, you get this free thing. Give me 2 chapters of my book. Maybe we're going to do an art class. I'm going to do an intro art class. Everybody's invited to on this date and time. And then I have an offer. You can buy the book. If you like the first 2 chapters, hey, come join me for the full class after the intro. So you've got a reason for people to have an exchange for their email, and now you've got them on their list. The other trends, well, goodness, TikTok. I wouldn't, it wouldn't be right not to talk about TikTok. And it's not that businesses aren't on TikTok it's not that businesses aren't on TikTok, but TikTok is for fun. It is very short. And if you've got as an entrepreneur, if you've got great short messages that makes your product or service fun, you can really do well on TikTok. But you can also go to TikTok just to have fun and create challenges. So people enjoy that in that platform. So that it's not a business platform per se, but some people who are very creative can certainly create a fan base. And then now that they've got their fan base, they start feeding these short business pieces and move people elsewhere. And maybe to a landing page or a shopping page.
That's starting to maybe a shadow version of Reels on Instagram. You've got 30 seconds to share something interesting, and it's TikTok-esque.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got oh, is it shorts on YouTube? YouTube has its own version. Stories are now on LinkedIn. It's almost, do you remember when there was coffee at the Starbucks and there were sandwich shops and hamburgers at McDonald's, and now there's coffee in one and breakfast sandwiches? Like, they're all infringing on each other's territory. It feels like that in social media. So several places have stories, several places have shorts and reels, and it's interesting to watch it all function, and there's always something new. It's never static.
Nico reminded me of a very important day to post on social media.
Yes. Oh, with you. So,
Nico knows the way to my heart and Catherine's heart.
yes. By the way, did you know that there is a website out there that will rewrite the intro to Star Wars in whatever you have written? And for a fee, they'll put your logo instead of the Death Star. So I actually did that 3 weeks ago. It's a 90-second. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. And it's out there. I can't remember what it's called. It's Star Wars captions, opening, something like that. And if you want a great May the 4th message, I know there's going to be a ton of them out there on the 4th, for sure.
Love that. Hey, I've got a question, Catherine. I've noticed that on LinkedIn, a lot of people share more.
Yes.
And if you're a solopreneur, how would you go about sharing your own content in any way? What would you do? Would you create a blog? What else could you do?
Well, LinkedIn has the built-in, blog, the articles that are there that used to be the old LinkedIn Pulse. So you can have articles, and if you're writing an article, you can have several pieces of short content. If you're writing an article and you're creating short content, well, you can create a video to introduce it. So you want to do your video, everyone. You're going to get the most interaction with video. So please think video. But your text is going to get people as well. It's easier to search. You're going to put your hashtags in it. You're going to put your calls to action at the end of everything you do. And when it comes to content, I think it's more important to be consistent. So if you're going to post once a week, then you post every week. Rather than posting, I'm going to post 5 times this week, and then I won't post for another month. So once a week. And if that is all you've got to do, that's all the time you have for, it's better to do that. So if Tuesday at 11, you're going to put out something every Tuesday at 11, that's great. What's even better is to go looking for people who have your audience, who also post content, and comment. You want to share, because they're going to check you out. They like what you do, and you always comment like an expert in your field. You don't say, yeah, awesome. Please stop doing that. Please stop doing that. Comment like
you just ruined me.
This is your chance to impress people without even putting out content. Now, you always put out some content, but you don't have to put out a lot if you're not a content creator, a happy content creator. You can do just as well in LinkedIn just by finding content rock stars with your audience. And it's not to take away the spotlight from them. And you can even share their content with your expert, because you're going to position that content for your audience, be seen as an expert in the field, and you might actually gain quite a few more people looking at your profile because they liked how you positioned that little bit, and all you did was write a comment on someone else's post.
Makes sense. So, Catherine, you're obviously a social media expert on LinkedIn. Now, how do we find Catherine?
On LinkedIn, I'm at Catherine Sagley-Stevens. And I think, yep, you've got it right there. That's where I play most often, is in the back end of LinkedIn. And I look for patterns. I follow a lot of different people, not just in my industry or in my client base, but a lot of different areas, because what people try in artists and in authors, we need to look at that because it really works for them. Let's see if that will work for us. Or we see something that really worked a year ago, and maybe that won't work well today, but a year from now, you know, old school is big again. We've got snail mail. I love getting snail mail. Oh, I know, snail mail, but it's great. So things that were old, try it again. Things that were new, try them, you know, try them still. See what works for your audience. And oh gosh, Twitter's the fastest way to test something. And I find that LinkedIn and Twitter really work well together, because the two of them, one is working very quickly, and then you can get the information and see what hashtags are really working on Twitter, because it changes every couple of hours. See what new hashtags can you bring to LinkedIn.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I've got a lot of questions, and I'm sure our audience have got a lot of questions too. So guys, reach out. We've just seen multiple ways that you can contact Catherine, so please do.
Thank you.
And Neil, how do people get in contact with you?
I'm old school. I like people coming to my website because I have blogs, I have videos, and of course I want to capture your email address, because of course I want to stay in contact with you. But if you don't want any of that shenanigans, I can be found on Facebook under Neil Thrussell, and memorize this handsome face, because there is another Neil Thrussell out there that is in New Zealand, and I missed when I was in New Zealand to check him out. But hey, and the best way to get a hold of you, Sarah?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You can check me out on Facebook, and you can also find me on Instagram. Instagram's quite interesting because you literally just see an image, you can click on it and go, actually, that interests me, I'm going in. Whereas I find Facebook, you got to scroll a bit more and you might give up a bit early. So check me out on Instagram and go out there and design the life you desire every day.
Because unfortunately, we only have 60 minutes to spend with Catherine, because she needs to do some self-care, because what you didn't know is that she wasn't feeling so well for the last couple days. So we're really honored and blessed to have drug her this far and for this long. So thank you for sharing your precious time with us, Catherine. And I would just like to leave with some thoughts, and then we'll go to Catherine, and then we'll get Sarah to lead us on the way out, and we'll be done. So no matter what you decide to do and want to do in your life, know that you are worthy of all your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And all I ask you is to go out and take massive action to succeed, and just go and make it happen. And with that,
okay, I'll keep it really short. People are bombarded by thousands and thousands of messages every day. So even if you do get them to hear you, they probably are only taking in a fraction of your message. And that's why it's got to be crystal clear. So test it. Go back and test it with your target audience. Did they understand if you say it this way? Would they understand better if they see it that way? The people you've already talked to and worked with and attracted, get their input. And most of the time, people are very happy to be heard and to be asked.
And guys, we're going to wrap this up now. Thank you so very much for joining us today. We appreciate you. Drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And go out there and create uplifting conversations worldwide. This is your life's masterpiece. Don't hand that paintbrush to everyone else, and have a fantastic day. Take care.
Take care.